Shabbat Shalom, everybody. Hope everyone's having a wonderful day and staying safe and healthy during this lockdown. The Parasha this week is Parasha Devarim, and it tells the story of the Jews who are about to enter the land of Israel after spending 40 years wandering in the desert after slavery in Egypt. The Jews are about to enter the land, but before they do, Moses, who's at the very end of his life, knowing he will not be entering in the land of Israel, gathers all the Jews together to tell them a story, to tell them their history of the last 40 years. The Jews who left Egypt, the slaves who left Egypt, were not the same people who were sitting in front of Moses right now. The 40 years in the desert meant all the people, all the slaves who had left Egypt, that generation had died out. And a new generation of free Jews, of free Israelites, were about to enter the land of Israel. But before they do, Moses sits them down to tell them a story, to tell them their history. Because it's so important to know where you've come from before you know where you're about to go. Devarim is a history lesson. Moses tells them about every battle they had, every tribe or people they encountered, every story, every miracle that happened along the way. So Devarim is a story about history, and it's about the stories and the histories that we tell each other and that we tell future generations. Earlier this week, I was teaching a class on digital Bialik online for a group of students in our community. And after the session, I was speaking to them about their well-being, how they're doing, checking in on how they're feeling during this lockdown and during social isolation. And one young girl said something to me that was quite jarring. She said to me that she hopes that she does get the coronavirus, that she does get a case of COVID-19, so that when she has children and grandchildren, she can tell them the story of what it was like firsthand to live through this pandemic. I was struck by two things simultaneously when I heard her say that. Firstly, I was struck at how naive that approach is, an understanding of the virus, that getting coronavirus is a story to tell one day. And I do hope this student doesn't contract coronavirus and her family and all of us remain safe and unaffected. But secondly, I was struck by the awareness of, even at such a young age, about how we are currently living through history. This young student, and many of us feel the same way, know that we are living through a moment in history that we are one day going to tell as a story. And it made me think and ask myself, what is my version of that story is going to be? When I'm telling my son right now, who's 1 year old, who's living through a global pandemic, when he's older and says, "Dad, what was it like?" what am I going to be able to tell him? And for me, I want to be able to share a story about supporting the people around me, about staying positive, about using this time at home and this time in isolation to focus on what really matters, on myself and on my family, and on getting better as a person. And I want to tell a story about how our community, our groups, our country came together and the part I played in that. When Moses went up to tell the Jewish people this 40-year history, I wonder if he knew for 40 years that he was going to have to do that. If he knew that one day he's going to have to share this story with a new generation of his followers. Did he have the foresight at the time to prepare, to understand, to learn messages that he would one day impart upon his people? The question I'm asking is, did he know while he was walking in the desert for 40 years that he was living through history and living through a story that he was going to have to tell one day? The uniqueness of this situation is that we are living through history and we know it. We live through story-worthy moments all the time. We've lived through historical moments before, but this time we have the awareness that we are doing so. So as you're heading into Shabbat, as you're heading into your weekend on lockdown, maybe something to think about is, what is your story going to be when you tell the story of the global pandemic in 10, 20, or 50 years' time? Shabbat Shalom.